Hello and welcome back to The Fruit of Grisaia, Sachi's route. In the last episode, we discovered that Sachi and Yuuji were childhood friends before Yuuji lived with his master. Yuuji then, with the help of JB, dug into what happened to Sachi. Why was a girl with such good academic skills in a place like Mihama Academy? We discovered that Sachi lived a relatively happy childhood until her parents got too good at their work and became overloaded with work and couldn't pay attention to Sachi despite Sachi's attempts. Sachi then, in an attempt to get away from it all, ran to a nearby playground where she discovered Yuuji sitting and brooding over his life. Finding that they had similar situations at home, the two bonded really well. Let's continue. Sergeant, what are you doing over there? Come on, what does it look like I'm doing? I'm picking up the trash. Yeah, but why? I mean, next time I come here to play, wouldn't it be nicer to find the place clean? Wow, you're so thoughtful, Sachi. Huh? I mean, lots of people might think the same thing, but that doesn't mean they clean up the mess themselves. And you did it without even thinking about it. You're kind of amazing. Did I say something weird again? Nah, I haven't got praise like that in a while, so I was just a little surprised. You haven't? My mom and dad used to compliment me when I did something good. But right now they're busy at work, so... Okay, in that case I guess I'll have to take over that job for now. Huh? It doesn't seem hard to find stuff to praise about you. I think even I can handle this one. That okay with you? Yeah, that's fine, but... Okay, in that case. Good job, Sachi. Huh? With those words, Yukon brought his hand to rest on top of my head. It was far smaller than Mom's hand, let alone Dad's, and yet... In that moment, his hand felt gentler and warmer than any other I'd known. Thanks, Yukon. Yukon didn't just play with me. He gave me the attention I'd been craving. When I did well or tried hard, he'd compliment me right away. When I messed up or tried something risky, he'd give me a few gentle words of concern. Apparently that had also had something to do with his big sister's teachings, but whatever the case, Yuuji-kun's thoughtful warnings made me almost as happy as his praise. Lately, I started to wonder why I was trying so hard when no one even cared enough to look. But now Yukon was watching me, and I had a new reason to do my best. Alright, make sure not to blink. Here goes. Yeah, be careful, okay? Hiya! Well, did I pull it off? Yeah, you spun all the way around perfectly. Thanks. That's really amazing. Not that I'm much good at the horizontal bar or anything, but I've never done a forward flip even once. I don't think it's that amazing, but today's the first time I managed it. I wanted to show you first, Yukon. Oh, really? Thanks, Sachi. Huh? That's a reward for playing with me all the time. Yeah, thanks. Oh, she kissed him. Ah. When I tried hard at something, Yukon would always praise me. Sometimes overflowing with happiness, I'd give him a kiss on the cheek in return. And more than once, I drove myself so hard in pursuit of a new achievement that I ended up passing out on the playground. That was how much Yukon's words meant to me. He had stepped into the gap left by my parents' absence, giving me the attention and affection they no longer would. As I grew more and more conscious of what he meant to me, my daily life was quickly transformed. I spent less and less time inside the house. When I got home from school, I'd head straight off to the playground. More than anything else, I looked forward to the time I could spend playing with Yukon. At home, the constant grinding of the machines and the perpetual silence of our music box was still painful, but I found I could endure them now. Not to say that I didn't interact with my parents at all. You seem to have been playing at the park quite a lot lately, Sachi. Aha, I made friends with a kid named Yukon there. I see, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I'm okay. Good luck with your job, Mom. When coincidence brought us together, we were able to hold slightly awkward but reasonably friendly conversations. Even so, I had stopped actively trying to regain their attention. In contrast to the steadily shrinking place my parents held in my heart, Yukon's presence grew larger and larger by the day. I wish it'd hurry up and be tomorrow so I can play with Yukon again. It didn't take long for those feelings to blossom into a faint but unmistakable love. I love this picture. I love this picture so much. It's like, ah! Hey, Yukon, do you have someone you love? Like I said before, I guess my sister? Well, not that sort of love. Like a person you want to marry or something. Marry? I haven't even thought about that stuff yet. Sachi, are you thinking about it already? Huh? Me? Well, you brought it up, so I thought you were probably interested. Right, makes sense. Yeah, so do you have someone you want to marry? Yeah. No kidding. Okay, then But here's the thing. Anyone who wants to marry me has to be qualified. Qualified? That's right. I won't marry anyone unless they can beat me at shoe kicking. Shoe kicking? Uh-huh. You sit down in the swing like this and see who can kick their shoe the furthest. Oh, I get it. So, wanna try? You know, just for the heck of it? Huh? Me? Yeah, maybe you can kick your shoe further than me. Let's try it out. Sounds kind of fun, I guess. Sure, I'll play. Oh, I love seeing Yuuji happy like this. When you get further into the story, you'll know that he deserves it really, really, really much, so... Spoiler alert, I guess. But it's far down the line, so I'm not even sure it's really shown in this game. Oh well. Yeah, alright, I'll go first. Confident, huh? Well, it does seem like something you'd be good at, Sachi. Yeah! Whoa, that went pretty far. Yeah, so now it's your turn, Yukon. Yeah, I'm not that confident, but... Yeah! Ah! Guess I can't beat you after all, Sachi. I purposely went a little easy on my kick, but I still ended up beating Yukon. Every once in a while, being naturally athletic can be a curse instead of a blessing. I spent that night curled up in my bed, bitterly regretting coming up with that stupid qualification in the first place. There must be a better way to hide my embarrassment than that. And so, time slipped steadily by, my feelings unspoken. But as my next birthday grew near, my relationship with Yukon started to change in a different way. So, anyway, Dad ended up making Mom really angry. Yukon? Oh, sorry, I was kind of spacing out. Jeez, you're the one who asked about my family, Yukon. I was putting my heart and soul into that story. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Yukon had always listened intently to my stories. This was the first time I could remember his attention wandering in the middle of a conversation. But my unease was relieved quickly enough. He apologized and listened to the rest of my story. I figured he must have just had something on his mind that day. And yet... Sachi, do you think there's a god? Huh? You know, one who knows everything and can do anything. If there's a god that strong watching over us, even if things look really bad, it'll turn out okay in the end, right? Well, I haven't even seen God, so I don't really know if he exists. But lots of grown-ups pray for his help, so I guess he must be really strong. Yeah, that's gotta be right. God's gotta be really powerful. Aha, probably. That's what I thought too. Thanks, Sachi. Sure. Sometimes he'd suddenly talk about God or other weird stuff. More often he'd sit rocking on a swing, staring off into the distance with a blank look on his face. It was the old familiar expression from the first time I met him. The expression he'd stopped making after we became friends. I had a vague idea that something must have happened at Yukon's home, but I was still just a kid, powerless to offer any real help. When Yukon asked me those questions, clearly searching for reassurance, all I could do was listen, nod, and trying to hide my concern. At the same time, the blizzard of work that had buried my parents for so long was finally starting to slow down a bit. The machines weren't clattering quite as late into the night as they used to. Once or twice I went home early to find my parents making small talk with strangers in suits. Like most kids, I did get pretty curious about what the adults were talking about, but when I eavesdropped, all I got was a whole bunch of words I didn't really understand flying back and forth. I got the idea they were talking about the machines in the workshop, but the specifics went right over my head. They are probably buying replacements for the old machines while it's not so busy. But only a few days after I reached that conclusion, our housekeeper told me she'd be leaving the job. Apparently Mom told her she'd be able to handle the chores by herself again. It was nice that my parents were getting less busy and that Mom would be looking after the house again, but at the time my mind was so full of anxious thoughts of Yukon that I couldn't manage to feel happy about anything else. Lately he'd been showing up at the playground a lot less frequently. Yukon, what should we play next? Sorry, I've got something I have to do today. I have to head home now. Oh, okay then. See you tomorrow. I don't think I can come tomorrow. Huh? But I'll play with you the day after that, okay? Alright, see you in 2 days then. Yeah, sure. Bye, Sachi. Our meetings slowly grew fewer and further between. The loneliness reminded me of the painful days when my parents had first begun ignoring me in favor of their job. Watching helplessly as Yukon trudged away, my mind churned with sadness and fear. At this rate, Yukon's going to leave me too. I couldn't let that happen again. I couldn't let another person I loved abandon me. This time I had to stop it somehow. The next time I saw Yukon, I decided to use my birthday as an excuse to coax him into spending more time with me. You know what? Tomorrow's my birthday. Oh, really? Yeah, so, do you think you can play with me, maybe? Actually, I probably won't be able to play with you for a while, Sachi. Huh? A bunch of stuff happened at home. I think it's going to be hard for me to get outside from now on. No way. Why? This is so sudden. Turns out there isn't any such thing as a god. God? Yeah. Nobody's gonna protect me anymore. I probably won't be able to play in the park like this again. Don't say that. I'm sorry. I know I should have told you sooner, but Sachi, you always looked forward to playing with me. I didn't want to make you sad. Yukon? But vanishing suddenly without telling you would be even worse. So today I came to say goodbye. Does that mean I won't ever see you again? I don't know for sure, but it's definitely possible. No way. And I snuck out of the house today, so I have to get back before Dad notices. Hey, tomorrow's my birthday, you know. I'm sorry I can't celebrate it with you, Sachi. Okay, I'm gonna go now. Wait, Yukon! Why? Why won't you play with me anymore? That's not fair. Aren't we friends now? I thought we'd play lots and lots from now on. And now we have to say goodbye all of a sudden? I'll be waiting tomorrow, okay? Until you show up, Yukon. I'll wait at the usual place, no matter how long it takes. Ah, there it was, the usual place. As Yukon slowly walked away for the very last time, I yelled at the top of my lungs, more loudly and more desperately than I ever had before in my entire life. But he never paused. He never turned back. Yukon's leaving me. Maybe I was right. Maybe everyone I loved abandons me. Paralyzed by miserable self-pity, I couldn't even chase after him. For a long time after that abrupt farewell, I could only stand stock still at the entrance to the park, wallowing in confusion and pain. And on the morning of my 10th birthday, rubbing my red and swollen eyes as I crawled out of bed, I immediately realized that something was different. For one thing, I couldn't hear the droning of the machines that had been running from the early morning hours for months now. And for another, the smell of fresh miso soup was wafting through the air from the kitchen. Could that be Mom cooking? What about work? Still half asleep and completely nonplussed, I wandered over to the living room where an unexpected sight was waiting for me. Good morning, Sachi. Good morning. Mom and Dad were sitting next to each other on the far side of the table, almost as if they'd been waiting for me to wake up. After greeting me, they waited with gentle smiles for my answer. It almost felt like I was reliving a memory from days before they'd become so busy. The sheer surprise was such that it took me a moment to find a response. Yeah, good morning. What's wrong, Sachi? You're a little wide-eyed there. I mean, I can't hear the machines today, and Mom and Dad, you're both in the house this early? True enough. After the way we've been acting, I guess it's only natural that you'd be surprised. Considering the way things have been lately. The two of them smiled sadly at each other, then turned right back to me. You see, Sachi, since today's your birthday, we took the day off from work. Huh? We know how lonely you've been feeling, and we thought it was about time we started making it up to you. Of course, we're going to celebrate your birthday with a cake tonight, but first, Mom and I want to play with you all day long. The words coming out of their mouth were exactly what I'd been longing so desperately to hear for so many months. It felt so much like a dream that I very nearly pinched myself. Mom and Dad would be at my side again, like they used to be. Just like when every day was full of happiness, we could play together as a family once more. That was what I'd wanted all along. Even while I was playing with Yukon, I daydreamed countless times about this very moment. And now it was real. My parents were giving me the gentle, caring words I'd longed to hear. My heart should have been bursting with joy. And yet, what I felt instead was dark, intense anger, as though a hidden flame long smoldering in some hidden cranny of my mind had found the oxygen it needed to burst into a blazing wildfire. No matter how hard I tried, they completely ignored me. Why now, all of a sudden? Do they seriously think taking one day off work is gonna make me forget how sad I've been all this time? Good luck with that. Yukon took their place, but now even he's gone. So why? Why now? Why do they think they can just... Cold, black bitterness spreading through my body. I lifted my head to give my parents the answer. Don't bother. Huh? You don't have to force yourself to play with me or anything. I'm just fine by myself. I know how much you guys love your jobs. Don't worry. I won't ask you to take a break just to be with me. So if you want to celebrate my birthday that much, go ahead and do it without me. The instant those sulky words left my mouth, I bolted out of the living room. Sachi? Wait, Sachi! They called out to me from behind, but I just kept running, out the door, away from my house. Not that I was headed anywhere in particular. Anywhere would be fine as long as Mom and Dad weren't there. I didn't want to see their faces, I didn't want to hear their voices. I ran as fast as my leg could carry me, my hands clenched tightly into fist, biting my lower lip until the sickening taste of iron filled my mouth. As I fled, the only thing in my mind was anger at my parents. Looking back on it now, it wasn't much more than an irrational outburst of pent-up emotion. But still, rather than feeling happy at their promise to celebrate my birthday together, I was outraged at my parents for wrapping up all the sadness and pain I'd felt for so long into those bland words about feeling lonely. And in the end, my blind, aimless flight carried me to that familiar playground. I hadn't consciously thought about making my way here. If anything, I was intentionally trying to stay away from the area close to my home. At some point, I definitely passed a hospital much further away than this place. Even so, some unconscious part of my mind had guided me to this destination. Yukon? The impact of the previous day's events must have been just that storm. I couldn't simply accept that unbelievably abrupt goodbye. As Yukon left, I had screamed that I'd be waiting for him today. If I forced a one-sided promise on him, maybe he'd slip out of his house to see me. That selfish, childish hope was still alive inside of me. What time is it? Wiping the sweat from my forehead, I looked up to the tall clock tower nearby. It was a little past 10 in the morning. Yukon always came to the playground about 1:30 on weekends, but I decided I might as well start waiting now. That way I'd be here, even if Yukon came early. If Mom and Dad showed up, I could always run away again. Yeah, that's right. Trying to disguise the pain and anxiety growing inside me, I forced myself to believe in this spur-of-the-moment plan. I walked over to the swing set, where the two of us had always sat side by side, and settled into my seat. The day before I told Yukon I would wait for him in this park. But it wasn't like he promised to come play with me. He hadn't even responded to my words. There was no guarantee Yukon would come to this park. Still, I had absolute faith that he'd show up eventually. And I was pretty confident I could wait patiently until then. But as the clock's hour hand made its way past 5, and my vigil approached its 8th hour, even that childish confidence began to waver. I guess he's not coming after all. So yesterday really was goodbye? The playground that had always felt too small for us suddenly seemed an unbelievably large and empty space. Yukon had told me clearly enough that he couldn't play with me anymore, that even getting outside would be difficult from now on. Could he even make it to the park if he wanted to? Having regained the ability to think rationally with the passage of time, my mind ruthlessly chipped away at my unfounded confidence, and finally arrived at the realization that I had backed myself into a miserable corner. Once that timid thought passed through my mind, it was only a matter of time. The painful emotion I'd been covering up with my anger came bubbling back up to the surface. I was really mean to Mom and Dad again. They were gonna play with me and I ruined everything. This isn't any different from last year. Even if I go home tonight, my birthday is just gonna be Mom and Dad yelling at me. With each thought, the anxiety and regret swelled uncontrollably inside me. Before I knew it, fat tears were running down my cheeks. Dad? Mom? Sachi? When I squeezed my eyes closed shut to shut out the world, I saw my parents in my mind's eye, their faces gentle and kind. No matter how lonely they made me, and no matter how much I tried to hate them for it, in the end I still loved them both, very much. Sachi! And in the moment I finally understood. I thought I could hear those same familiar voices, not in my memories, but somewhere nearby. Huh? Sachi! Sachi! I raised my head with a jerk, indifferent now to the tears that continued to pour from my eyes. Outside the park and just on the other side of the road, I saw my mom and dad. Even from a distance I could tell they were covered in sweat. They'd been desperately searching for me. Mom and dad are still mom and dad after all, the people I love the most in the world. I should have known that all along. Why couldn't I have accepted them from the start? No, there was no longer any point in even thinking about it. I was wrong. Now all I had to do was apologize. All I had to do was jump into the arms and yell, "I'm sorry for being so selfish." Daddy! Mommy! Sachi! Once the two of them noticed my presence, their expressions instantly melted with relief. I dashed out of the park, overwhelmed with happiness, and I heard a sudden roar of displaced air, like the sound of a fierce wind. In the next instant, the world before me was filled with colossal jet-black blood. I heard the sound of something colliding with something else, then screeching to a halt nearby. I had reflectively squeezed my eyes shut. When I timidly opened them, I was greeted with the unimaginable. Mom and Dad were stretched out flat on the road surface, almost as if sleeping face down. Dad didn't even stir, a machine with a dead battery. Mom twitched convulsively again and again, a broken toy. The blood pooling under their bodies crept slowly across the orange-tinted asphalt, dyeing the road a dusky red. What is this? Those agonized groans, so totally unlike any other sound I'd ever heard my mom make, filled me with terror too pure and primal to express in words. My ears had begun to ring as if to drown out the unpleasant sound of the truck's engine idling nearby. With every moment that passed, my breath came faster and faster. I couldn't fully grasp what had just happened before my eyes, but instinctively I understood that it was something so awful as to wipe everything that had come before into complete irrelevance. What do I do? What do I do? Right, I've got to call for help. At times like these, call 911 first. My mind was still capable of thinking about what I should do next. And yet, my body was frozen on the spot as if physically rejecting the incomprehensible situation before me. Sachi. Huh? At the sound of my name, I turned my eyes back to the ground. My mother was dragging herself slowly across the road to me, desperately trying to communicate something. Mommy! 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 The sight instantly reduced me to a panicked frenzy, and all I could do now was shriek her name. Lifting her trembling upper body ever so slightly off the ground, she slowly raised her face and then... Sachi, why? And then she spoke those words. In that instant, I thought I could hear something snap inside me. As my body began to quiver uncontrollably, the world was covered in a black shroud. The split second after the buzzing drone inside my head finally went silent, I lost consciousness entirely. Apparently a local passerby quickly reported the incident, and it wasn't long before the ambulance carried us away. Not that I remember any of that. When I opened my eyes for the next time, a full day had passed, and I was lying in a colorless hospital room. Where am I? Sachi, you're awake? I heard a chair scraping against the linoleum floor nearby. A moment later, a familiar face appeared before me. Uncle Akihiro? Yeah, that's right. It's me. First thing first, are you feeling alright? Does anything hurt or feel bad? I gingerly moved my arms and legs several times, but I couldn't find anything wrong with my body. No, I'm okay. I see. Thank goodness. My uncle smiled broadly at my words, tears in the corners of his eyes. Still a little dopey from waking up, I felt a simple curiosity about the intense emotion so evident in his face. Hey, Uncle Akihiro, what happened? When I put the question into my words, my uncle averted his eyes, his expression filled with reluctance and pain. Sachi, your parents... Yeah? Were in an accident. An accident? As I dully repeated my uncle's words, a memory that had slipped cleanly from my mind slowly re-emerged. A small park died in the light of the evening sun. The smell of burning rubber, the sound of a truck idling. And finally, Mom and Dad, lying in pools of their own blood. The scene flashed before my eyes in perfect clarity. Reflexively I tried to look away, but there was no escape, and in the next moment my ears were filled with that awful droning buzz. Sachi? My field of vision grew slowly narrower, and a choking sense of paralysis spread throughout my body. It felt as though my body temperature had suddenly plunged. A violent wave of nausea and a splitting headache attacked me all at once. Sachi, are you alright? Uncle Aki. Sachi! Doctor, Sachi woke up but she's in pain all of a sudden. As the world grew dim before my eyes, I could vaguely make out my uncle shouting desperately for someone's attention. Wait, now I can't see or hear anything. Oh, I guess I'm fainting again. The instant the thought ran through my head, I plunged into nothingness. It would be a full 3 days before I woke up again. When the nurse noticed my eyes were open, she immediately called the doctor in charge, who conducted a quick examination on the spot. After determining that I wasn't so severely impaired as to cause difficulties in an ordinary conversation, the doctor began to explain many things to me. Uncle Akihiro, who came running over to the hospital, soon joined in as well. That day, Mom and Dad had been in a traffic accident right before my eyes. Just as I ran out toward them, a truck with a drunk driver behind the wheel had barreled through the intersection, ignoring a red light. Hit head-on by the massive vehicle which had been traveling at 60 kilometers an hour or more, my dad died instantly from the massive blunt force trauma. My mom had miraculously survived, but at the moment she was still unconscious, fighting for her life in critical condition. When I learned all this, I didn't cry and grieve, and I didn't explode with anger against the man who had caused the accident. The words the doctor used were really hard to understand, so a lot of the conversation went over my head. That probably had something to do with it. But more than anything else, nothing about this situation felt remotely real to me. Yeah, I can move just fine. That night, finally alone in my darkened hospital room, I flexed my legs and arms thoughtfully. No matter how many times I tested it, my body didn't feel injured. I could move just as freely and easily as before. And maybe Dad was dead, and maybe Mom was lying unconscious somewhere in this hospital, but I hadn't seen either of them yet. So maybe everyone telling me about this accident was just lying. Maybe if I were able to get out of bed and head straight home, my parents would be waiting for me there. My thoughts persistently returned to these comforting, paper-thin theories. But the doctor wouldn't lie to me. And more importantly, in the depths of my mind, a clear memory remained. The instant my thoughts brushed against that fragment of the past, I could hear my heart throb violently in my chest. This time, the shrill buzzing that had accompanied the similar incident 3 times earlier was conspicuously absent. In exchange, the most severe headache of my life fell upon me with all the suddenness and force of an avalanche. The sharp burst of pain, as if my body was warning me not to touch an open wound, robbed me of the will to think. Then I'll just stop trying. I'm sick of fainting. As soon as I emptied my mind, the headache vanished with astonishing speed. My breath came easier, and I could feel my heartbeat gradually returning to its normal rhythm. I was wrong. There's something wrong with my body after all. Nothing like this ever happened to me before that day. Then, that image in my head must be... As my mind began to reach a conclusion I didn't want to accept, I involuntarily recalled the agony I had just endured. If I remember what happened, the pain will come back. The ensuing wave of terror wiped all else from my mind. Pulling blankets over my head in search of refuge, I waited for the morning to come. And that's where we'll end this episode. So, we definitely had some traumatic events happen here. Yeah, so, and we are not that far into Sachi's branching story after all. So there's still a lot more to go, and we shall see what happens about that in the next episode. But until then, take care.